Tourism and hospitality industry says it will not survive if the current alert level 4 lockdown is extended tomorrow. The National Coronavirus Command Council is meeting to assess the current regulations. For more on the impact of the hard lockdown in the sector, I'm joined by Breet Tungay, who is a chairperson of the Federated Hospital Association of Southern Africa East Coast and CEO of Tourism Business Council of South Africa, Chifiwe. Very good afternoon to you both, gentlemen. Chifiwe, I'd like to start off with you and take a look at the impact that the hard lockdown level 4 has had on your industry.
Well, thank you for having me, and good afternoon to you and to your viewers. Well, for the past 15 plus months, we have been under lockdown, and there has been various stages of lockdown, including hard lockdowns and, blended lockdowns, and we even went to, lockdown level 1. So since the beginning of lockdown last year in March, the industry have taken a huge strain in terms of, the value chain. If you look at the hotels, if you look at the airlines, if you look at the car rentals, you look at small businesses, big businesses, they are all suffering. And these current level 4 lockdown regulations just put a nail on what was at least a glimmer of hope within the industry. Now we are back to a point where we were last year during this time, where we were not operational, restaurants were not open, hotels are hardly making any money, car rentals are not operational, airlines, you have seen Comair grounding their fleet. And if you look at the numbers of people that are going to the airports, those numbers have gone down, and which is going to have an impact on the likes of AXA and many others within the value chain of aviation. So it is tough time for us. And it has been tough time for the past 15 months, and this now just put the last nail on the coffin. So we are suffering. We do hope that we'll get some relief, come Sunday when the president speaks.
Brett, obviously, the last few months, members of your industry have had to make some form of adjustments to deal with the situation. What are some of these measures that they've put in place, obviously, to stop the bleeding?
Well, look, there has been, some relief from UIF, which the UIF TS is not necessarily the money that comes from government. It's an employees' money that has been put into this fund. And there has been 200 million rand that has came in, that was given to around 4,000 companies. I think each one of them got 50,000 rand each. But if you look at the larger relief in terms of, tax breaks, in terms of relief from rates and taxes, and relief on various loans that we have with private banks and the institutional banks, there hasn't been much that has came through. So for us, in terms of what we've gone through, and let's just remember that the employees are the ones that get impacted the most here, because they're unable to go to work, they're sitting at home. And the businesses have to some of them had to take loans, which is not a desirable thing to do. I know that there is a lot of government guarantee loan scheme and many other loan schemes that are out there, but it's not sufficient to continue to take loans when the industry is not operational. We're already sitting on a lot of debt, so it's not sufficient that we should go and take more and more loans. We want to work, we can work safely, we've proven that we can do so for many, many months that we've been operational, and we should be allowed to continue to work. So it's not desirable that we are reliant on handouts. We've been doing the tourism business for quite a number of years. Many people have been around, since, this industry was viable here in South Africa. So they know what they're doing. So they need to be allowed to operate and work and produce, the types of employments that they've produced, impact the economy, and ensure that, this country is sustainable. So we want to go to work. We don't want to go and get more loans and more loans and more loans. It doesn't work for the industry.
Brett, I'm sure you are in agreement with what Chifiwe was saying, but the question would be, how do you draw a balance between the need to remain in business, remain open and go to work, and the surge of the third wave that we're currently experiencing?
Yes, there has to be a balance, and the industry is quite aware of that. Sacrifices have to be made, but there has to be a balance, and the balance is between people dying of this virus or people dying of starvation. The job losses, in this industry, especially in this last 5 months, have been horrific. the number of bankruptcies just in the hospitality sector in the last 5 months. And that it's escalating. So that means those jobs that are lost won't be replaced. So we have to find a balance, and government needs to come to the party on this one, and quick. This industry is an extremely heavy capital-intensive industry. Tourism is, hospitality is. The amount of money it takes to set up a hotel or restaurant is huge. So that means that a majority of our industry is heavily indebted. Very well leveraged, and it has been fine for the last 100-odd years.
So, Breet, in your mind, where do you see this balance?
Yes, we've got the protocols in place as industry. We are following those protocols. It's been shown through both statistics in South Africa and worldwide that the lockdowns are not helping in stemming the flow of this disease. In fact, I believe, and many people, is that the lockdowns are actually exacerbating it by putting people on the street, which means that they lose their medical aid, they lose their diet, which is, they can't afford food. So, and that means your immune system is dropped. So those people are going to be even more susceptible to disease. So there has to be a balance. And closing the industry is not a balance, unfortunately to say.
Chafiwa, the NCCC meets tomorrow. What do you expect to come out of that meeting? Or certainly, what would you like to hope? What would you hope would come out of that meeting?
Well, I do sit at the NEDLAC Rapid Response Task Team where we discuss this type of restrictions, and we do discuss, a whole set of, measures that we believe needs to be put out there by government. Number one, we should not have inter-provincial travel restrictions. We should be able to open up, for people to travel and to do so safely. We've proven that we can do that safely. So that's number one. Number two, we need to open up the liquor industry. We cannot, at all times when we have a problem, and say we're going to, close the taps in the liquor industry. It does impact us within the tourism space. Liquor is consumed in hotels and in many other places where, hospitality, is done. So we need to figure out
if you'd allow me
to have both at the same time.
If you'd allow me to come in there, one of the reports, in fact, countless reports that we've received suggests that when people are intoxicated, they tend to gather a lot more than they would when they are sober. Is therefore this not justified?
No, I don't think, the way we're doing it, shows that we have learned from what we've done in the past. We need to also look at it and say, well, there's a value chain in this industry. The fact that people consume something and they go beyond the limit happens in many other products that people have. The effects may be slower. It just happens that the effects for this, it's faster and it's visible. But we need to deal with the behavior. If the issue that we have is that people drink too much, and when they drink too much, they tend to do things that they're not supposed to do, including, driving while they're drunk and many other things, then let's focus on that. We can't close the entire value chain just because there's a group of people who drink too much and they tend to do things that they shouldn't do. The rest should not be suffering because there's few. Let's focus on those few. Let's focus on those areas that we believe that there's a problem. Otherwise, we can't just say this is the whole country is a problem. If we know that there's a specific region, there's a specific town, there's a specific city, or in this municipality, at this section, this is what tends to happen when people are drunk. Let's focus there. And let's have programs to teach people how to drink responsibly. I don't think that saying, no one should consume alcohol or any other substance that's allowed, to be consumed. And we say, well, just because there's a group of people who do it too much. We need to have a balance, and we need to make sure that we understand that there's a value chain. There are people who survive from that. It's almost, that the jobs that are attached, to this particular industry are less important than other jobs that are attached to other industries. All we are saying is that there has to be a balance. And the balance has to be that, we need to be able to make sure that people go back to work. We need to prevent where we need to prevent. And we do see that the numbers are rising. We do know that gatherings, informal gatherings and social gatherings are a problem. Let's deal with that. Because people gather for many other reasons that sometimes don't even include alcohol. So we need to deal with that as a separate issue. We cannot always blame it on, alcohol. Restaurants are not operational as we speak. Why? Because we're afraid that people are going to drink. But these are controlled spaces. Hotels can't serve, alcohol, a glass of wine or champagne. These are controlled spaces. So we cannot, say, well, because there's
But
this
if you're in that controlled space, do they limit the amount of alcohol that you can take?
Well, if this is something that we believe can work, it's something that we're willing to discuss. But we need to discuss the measures and look at, how it can be done and how effective it's going to be. But the biggest thing is to ensure that in whatever we do, there's a science behind it. We always have these papers that someone will say, well, if people don't drink this...
I'm going to have to call time on the conversation. I certainly appreciate your time. We were speaking to Breet Tungay of the Federated Hospitality Association of Southern Africa and Chiviwa Chivengwa, CEO of Tourism Business Council, and they're suggesting that there should be a middle-of-the-road approach. Now, still to